Chapter 1801. Guan Hanting didn't seem to notice her discomfort at all. He said calmly, "You're welcome." Gu Xingyin. She felt strangely aggrieved. But aside from these small details, Gu Xingyin still had a lot of fun the whole day. Although Guan Hanting didn't talk much, he was a very organized person. When you went out with him, you didn't need to think about anything. He would arrange everything in an orderly manner. You just needed to enjoy and have fun with peace of mind. Gu Shengyin felt that when she was with Guan Hanting, she was already doing the same things as the 5-year-old beside her, lying down and waiting for arrangements. When the sun was about to set, Gu Shengyin and Zhao Zhao left the park reluctantly. Guan Hanting felt funny looking at the two of them. He said, "Is it that fun?" Then, he received 2 sparkling eyes. At this moment, Guan Hanting's phone rang. He turned sideways to answer the call. Gu Shengyin could vaguely tell that it was probably a call from home. After hanging up the phone, Guan Hanting said to Gu Shengyin, "I was going to take you out for dinner before going back, but Zhao Zhao's mother called and prepared dinner at home." These words were obviously directed at Gu Shengyin. She quickly said, "I'm also going back to school early. Zhao Zhao must be tired after playing for the whole day. Mr. Guan, can you take Zhao Zhao back quickly?" Guan Hanting glanced at her. "I'll take you back to school first." Gu Shengyin glanced at the little boy next to her. Such a young child must be tired after playing for the whole day. She shook her head. "I can take a taxi to school. It's not far. I don't need to trouble you." Guan Hanting saw that she insisted and didn't say anything else. Zhao Zhao waved goodbye to Gu Shengyin reluctantly. Guan Hanting was also a little curious. This little nephew of his had been eccentric since he was young. He had always been very popular, but Zhang Yu was the first person he couldn't forget after knowing her for only a day. He couldn't help but ask, "Zhao Zhao likes that sister that much?" Zhao Zhao said in all seriousness, "Sister is very beautiful and she is a very nice person." He thought for a moment and added, "They're much better than the aunties that Grandma found for you." Guan Hanting couldn't help but laugh. He knew who the aunties Zhao Zhao was talking about were. They were the girls his mother had arranged for him to go on blind dates. How could they be compared? He saw that the little girl seemed to be a little sleepy, so he bent down to pick her up and walked towards the parking lot. He could still hear him talking to the little boy. "Sister Zhang Yu is different from those aunties. She's little uncle's student. Zhao Zhao, don't compare her." The little fellow seemed to mumble something, but Guan Hanting couldn't hear it clearly. When he looked again, he found that the little nephew in his arms had already yawned and fallen asleep. Coincidentally, Gu Shengyin had just gotten out of the car when she bumped into Song Ruanruan, who had just returned from a date. There was a boy next to her who was carrying her bag. The two of them seemed to be chatting happily. Gu Shengyin immediately knew what was going on. "It seems that my roommate is no longer single." Song Ruanruan obviously saw Gu Shengyin as well. She turned to say something to the boy, took her bag from him, and walked towards Gu Shengyin. "Congratulations." Gu Shengyin winked at her. Chapter 1802. Hearing this, Song Ruanruan turned around. The guy was still standing there. She waved at him before he turned and left. Gu Shengyin said sourly, "Are you trying to show off to me?" Song Ruanruan walked over and held her arm. "Meng Meng, aren't you embarrassed to say that? If you were to announce that you're looking for a boyfriend now, I guarantee that the queue in our school would stretch from the classroom door to the school entrance." Gu Shengyin laughed but did not say anything. Seeing her like this, Song Ruanruan's heart skipped a beat. She seemed to have thought of something and sighed. "Meng Meng, what do you plan to do?" Gu Shengyin was confused. "What do you mean?" "Mr. Guan." Song Ruanruan lowered her voice. "I don't mean to say this, but although Mr. Guan is handsome, he has such a cold personality. I don't think he'd be a good boyfriend. Besides, look, there are so many girls who like him. Have you ever seen him get close to anyone?" Song Ruanruan said earnestly, "Meng Meng, look on the bright side. There are so many handsome guys in a university. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Can't you find someone to your liking? Gu Shengyin thought to himself, it's true. In this world, there's only one person who can enter my heart. No matter how outstanding the others were, they would have missed that opportunity. She casually changed the topic. Let's go. I'm starving. Let's go get dinner. Seeing her like this, Song Wanwan sighed in her heart. She knew that her roommate did not take her words to heart. The next day, Gu Shengyin was woken up by Song Wanwan. She looked at the time. It was only 8 in the morning. She sat up in bed groggily and said, Wanwan, I remember that we don't have anything going on today, right? As she spoke, she wanted to lie down on her pillow again. Song Wanwan quickly called out to her and handed her phone to her. See for yourself. As she spoke, she looked at Gu Shengyin accusingly. To think that I told you to give up yesterday. Meng, you and Mr. Guan have already developed to such an extent in private and you didn't even tell me? How disloyal. Gu Shengyin subconsciously looked at the phone screen. It was a photo from yesterday. The way she was eating sundaes with Guan Hanting and Zhao Zhao, and the way she was talking to Zhao Zhao with her head lowered. She didn't know if the photographer did it on purpose, but Guan Hanting's expression was very gentle in every photo, which was very different from his usual appearance. One of the photos was the most intriguing. Guan Hanting gently bent over and reached out to touch the corner of Gu Shengyin's mouth. Guan Hanting's eyebrows were slightly lowered, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised, as if he was smiling. On the other hand, Gu Shengyin widened her eyes and opened her mouth slightly, as if she was very shy. There was a vague ambiguous atmosphere between the two of them. No one would believe that there was no relationship between the two of them. Gu Shengyin glanced up. The title was, The Hidden Lovers of 8A University. Apart from herself and Guan Hanting, there were a few other couples mentioned in the post. The main characters in the post had a common characteristic. They were relatively well known in a university. She glanced at it and returned the phone to Song Wanwan with disinterest. Who's so bored? Song Wanwan saw that she didn't care at all and was about to fall asleep again, so she quickly called out to her. I say, Zhang. Meng, don't you think you should explain it to me? Chapter 1803. Gu Shengyin waved her hand sleepily and said casually, How can such a small thing be compared to sleeping? If there's any problem, come and find me when I wake up. As she spoke, she lay down and really did fall asleep just like that. Song Wanwan was speechless. Her gossipy heart was burning fiercely. Unfortunately, the person who could tell her the answer was actually sleeping at such an important time. When Gu Shengyin woke up again, it was already noon. Song Wanwan had spent the past few hours in torment. She kept refreshing the post. As expected, the discussion about Gu Shengyin and Guan Hanting was the most intense. When she saw Gu Shengyin get up, she hurriedly asked, Meng, can you tell me now? Gu Shengyin replied calmly, Oh, it was yesterday. You went on a date, so I went to the theme park alone to play. I happened to meet Teacher Guan, who was taking care of his nephew, so we played together for the whole day. Song Wanwan was speechless. That's it? She asked suspiciously. Gu Shengyin said with a straight face, That's it. Song Wanwan said, So what you're saying is that you and Teacher Guan have nothing to do with each other, and you just met by chance yesterday and played together for the whole day? That's it. Gu Shengyin nodded in agreement. Song Wanwan gave her a look of disdain and reached out to draw on the post. See for yourself. With such an expression and such an action, would Teacher Guan treat someone who has nothing to do with each other like this? Gu Shengyin glanced at it and frowned. From the photo, it really did seem like Guan Hanting was looking at her with a very gentle gaze. She said, Maybe it's a problem with the angle of the photo. I really have nothing to do with Teacher Guan. Then this. Song Wanwan's hand stopped on the photo that was the most discussed. Gu Shengyin paused. Song Wanwan said, Meng, don't tell me that this is because you got some ice cream on your face and Teacher Guan helped you wipe it off. Gu Shengyin. Congratulations, you guessed it right. That was really the case. Seeing her speechless expression, Song Wanwan was taken aback. Is that really the case? Gu Shengyin nodded honestly. Song Wanwan suddenly laughed and patted Gu Shengyin's shoulder. I say, Meng Meng, aren't you being too much of a friend? Why didn't you tell me such a good thing? Gu Shengyin was confused. What good news? Looking at her, Song Wanwan probably really believed that the two of them had nothing to do with each other. Of course, that was only for now. She looked at Gu Shengyin with resentment. Zhang Mengmeng, can you use your full score IQ to think about it? A normal person, especially a cold and ascetic handsome guy like Teacher Guan. If he had no feelings for you, would he have done something so intimate with you? Gu Shengyin's eyes widened. What do you mean? Song Wanwan nodded. Gu Shengyin sighed. No, he wouldn't. You don't know that Teacher Guan has never even smiled at me. Song Wanwan, one of you is slow, and the other is boring. Serves you right that you can't be together. She waved her hand. Forget it. Fate is probably something that's predestined. You guys can do whatever you want. Gu Shengyin looked at her with a smile and shook her head. Actually, how could she not know? Guan Hanting was probably the only one who did not know. First update. There are 4 more updates tonight. On the first day of the month, if you have votes, please vote for Gigi. Let's go up the rankings. Chapter 1804. Gu Shengyin didn't take this matter to heart. There was a lot of gossip on the school forum. Moreover, the author of the post didn't seem to have any malicious intentions. It was purely gossip. If Gu Shengyin took this seriously and still made a fuss about it, it would really be a case of trying to cover it up. However, even if she didn't care about this matter, there were naturally people who cared. During class the next day, several students in Zhang Yu's class were gossiping to Gu Shengyin about what had happened with a mysterious look on their faces. Gu Shengyin could only helplessly say, there really isn't anything. However, the onlookers weren't satisfied with her explanation at all. Their enthusiasm didn't diminish at all. This kind of mood reached its peak the next day, which was Tuesday, when Gu Shengyin attended Guan Hanting's elective class. Even if Gu Shengyin didn't care about other people's gazes, there were so many people looking at her in unison. Moreover, they looked at her ambiguously and looked back and forth between her and another person of the opposite sex. It was still a very uncomfortable thing to do. Guan Hanting's face turned cold. It's class time now. If you have any questions, we can discuss them after class. If you don't want to attend my class, you can leave now. He had accumulated quite a lot of power on a daily basis. When the crowd saw that Teacher Guan was angry, they didn't dare to continue gossiping. Of course, it was hard to say what they thought in their hearts. Gu Shengyin saw very clearly that during class, Guan Hanting's gaze still swept over her from time to time. He even asked her to stand up and answer a question. Guan Hanting's behavior was obviously for others to see. We are still the same as usual. In other words, they had nothing. There was no need for them to clarify anything because of those groundless rumors. Perhaps it was because Guan Hanting and Gu Shengyin were too magnanimous that the gossipers couldn't find any breakthrough points. After everyone made some guesses in private, this matter slowly died down. However, some people took it to heart. Deng Huijun, who was lying in bed and scrolling through her phone in boredom, had always been a frequent visitor to the school forum. She usually liked to post some selfies on the forum, including photos of the food she made, photos of her travels, and so on. Occasionally, she would also share some chicken soup for the soul. Coupled with her own good looks, she could be considered a popular figure on the forum. When Deng Huijun saw the photo of Gu Shengyin and Guan Hanting, she thought it was fake. She knew very well how unapproachable Guan Hanting was. If he was so easily attracted to a beautiful female student, with Deng Huijun's beauty, she wouldn't have hinted so many times. Guan Hanting didn't react at all. Moreover, Deng Huijun was very confident. No matter how beautiful she was still just a little girl. A mature and gentlemanly man like Guan Hanting would prefer a mature and elegant woman like her. Don't let this photo affect your judgment, she said to herself. But even so, she still couldn't calm down. She couldn't lie to herself. Judging from this photo, even if Guan Hanting didn't like Zhang Yu, she must have a special place in his heart. Chapter 1805. Deng Huijun felt a sense of suffocation in her heart. If she did not clear it up, she would never be able to feel at ease. She hated Zhang Yu. She had twisted her ankle the moment she got close to her. In the end, she was forced to lie at home every day to recuperate. She was so close to the man she liked. If it was said that Deng Huijun had only instinctively disliked Zhang Yu in the past, then now, she truly detested her and even loathed her. Human emotions were just so strange. Deng Huijun's situation clearly had nothing to do with Gu Shengyin. Moreover, Deng Huijun was not related to Guan Hanting. Anyone could be with him. Deng Huijun felt that it was because of Zhang Yu that she was so unlucky. She did not want to follow her mother's instructions and slowly approach this girl to find out more information. That would be too troublesome. She was very angry now. Deng Huijun felt that if she saw Zhang Yu now, she would not be able to keep calm. After the class, as usual, Guan Hanting picked up his books and walked out of the classroom. The students in the classroom, who were waiting to watch a good show, all looked disappointed. They thought that since the discussion on the forum had gone viral, as the parties involved, the two of them would at least give some reaction. But everything was as usual. The two of them acted as if they did not know anything and nothing had happened. Their calm appearance poured a bucket of cold water on the fiery, gossipy hearts of the students. After Guan Hanting's class, Gu Shengyin and Song Ruanruan took their books to another classroom. They had a full class in the afternoon. At this moment, Gu Shengyin's phone suddenly rang. It was a text message. She thought it was an advertisement notification and did not look at it for the time being. When she arrived at the classroom for the next class, Gu Shengyin thought of this and took out her phone from her pocket. It was an unknown number. There were only a few words in the text message. I saw the news on the forum. Don't worry, the innocent will know. Gu Shengyin could not help but laugh. Could it be that this man still thought that she would develop some kind of strange emotions? Her laughter attracted Song Ruanruan's attention. She couldn't help but lean over. What are you looking at that makes you smile so happily? Gu Shengyin instinctively put her phone away and smiled at Song Ruanruan. I'm not showing it to you. Song Ruanruan was stunned by her rare playfulness. When she came back to her senses, she couldn't help but reach out and pinch Gu Shengyin's face. Look at your beautiful face. If I were a man, I wouldn't let other men take advantage of you. Gu Shengyin chuckled and didn't say anything else. When Song Ruanruan fell silent, Gu Shengyin discreetly took out her phone and scrolled to the message page. She thought for a moment, then tapped her finger lightly and replied with a message. In the office, the other teachers looked at Guan Hanting, who rarely didn't leave immediately after work, and asked curiously, "Is there anything else today, Mr. Guan?" They all knew that Guan Hanting's main job was in the hospital. They had always known that he was a busy man who came and went in a hurry and left right after class. Today was a rare day of free time. Guan Hanting replied, "I'll be leaving soon." His cell phone suddenly rang. Guan Hanting quickly tapped on the phone that had been on the table all this time. From the looks of it, he seemed to be waiting for something. The teacher who had been talking to Guan Hanting looked at the phone strangely as the corners of Guan Hanting's lips curled upwards. There are still 2 more chapters. See you later. Chapter 1806. The reply was also very simple, with only a big smiley face. Guan Hanting was relieved. He felt much better after making sure that her mood wasn't affected by this matter. He packed up his things and walked to the garage. His car was stopped at the school gate. Guan Hanting rolled down the window and looked at the woman who stopped his car with a frown. "Ms. Deng, you should know that this is a very dangerous behavior." What would have happened if he had driven a little faster and stepped on the brakes a little slower? Deng Huijun's foot injury hadn't healed yet. She forced herself to come to school. Fortunately, she caught up with Guan Hanting. Hearing Guan Hanting's question, a trace of embarrassment flashed across her face. But very quickly, she suppressed this trace of embarrassment. She walked to the window and said to Guan Hanting, "Mr. Guan, can you give me a ride?" Guan Hanting furrowed his brows. He knew that Deng Huijun had feelings for him. Because of this, he didn't want to have anything to do with her. But Deng Huijun showed a trace of pity on her face and said in a softer tone, "I sprained my foot before, and it hasn't healed yet. I really can't walk." In the end, Guan Hanting couldn't bring himself to leave an injured person on the streets. His face relaxed a little. Seeing this, Deng Huijun was happy. She wanted to open the front passenger seat, but Guan Hanting said lightly, "Ms. Deng's leg is inconvenient. It's better to sit in the back seat. It's more comfortable." Deng Huijun had to open the back door herself. After Deng Huijun sat in the car, Guan Hanting asked, "Where do you want to go, Ms. Deng?" Deng Huijun gave a random name. It wasn't far. It was only a 10-minute drive from a university. It was very quiet in the car. Obviously, the man who was driving wasn't in the mood to chat. But Deng Huijun couldn't waste these 10 minutes. She looked up at the man in front of her. The man had his back to her, but Deng Huijun could clearly see how tall and strong his body was under his meticulous suit. Such a cold and unapproachable man usually had an unusually warm and sexy heart after the cold shell was removed. And she wanted to be the woman who could open Guan Hanting's cold shell. "Mr. Guan." Seeing that Guan Hanting seemed to break the silence, Deng Huijun had to speak up. His deep voice carried a hint of femininity. In Deng Huijun's ears, it was no less than an auditory pleasure. It was useless to be reserved with such a man. She decided to get straight to the point. "I have a good impression of Teacher Guan. Do you know that?" Hearing this, Guan Hanting didn't even tighten his grip on the steering wheel. He said faintly, "Teacher Deng, please don't joke around." Deng Huijun chuckled and flipped her long hair. She knew that although Guan Hanting didn't turn around, he could see her actions from the rearview mirror. She also knew how mesmerizing she looked when she did such a thing. She smiled faintly and said, "Whether I'm joking or not, Teacher Guan, you can test it out with me." She purposely lowered and lengthened the last word. In this small space, it gave birth to a sticky and ambiguous atmosphere. Chapter 1807. Deng Huijun was confident. Not many men would be able to resist a woman like her taking the initiative to hint at them. So what if Mr. Guan was aloof and ascetic? She didn't believe that any man would be able to resist a peach blossom. However, she was wrong. Guan Hanting didn't seem to notice her hint at all. He still said in a calm and indifferent tone, "Sorry, I don't have any feelings for Mr. Deng other than that of a colleague. Mr. Deng, please don't waste your time on me." Deng Huijun's expression froze. She didn't expect that he wouldn't be moved at all after she hinted at him to this extent. She had never doubted her charm. Could it be that Guan Hanting really liked a little white rabbit like Zhang Yu, like what was said on the forum? She still didn't give up. "Mr. Guan, we're all adults. Whether we're suitable for each other or not, it's not up to you. Anyway, you don't have a girlfriend now. You have nothing to lose by trying with me." This time, her words were even more straightforward. A trace of disgust flashed through Guan Hanting's eyes. He knew that some people were very open-minded about adult matters. He didn't reject such thoughts, but he was a bit of a clean freak when it came to relationships. He couldn't accept that someone chose to be together just because of desire without considering feelings. He said coldly, "If Mr. Deng still wants to sit in my car, don't continue this topic." Deng Huijun's face also darkened. In all her life, she had never met a man who didn't give her face like this. She remembered the news she saw on her phone and suddenly said in a bad tone, "Mr. Guan, you're so afraid of me. Is it because of Zhang Yu?" Guan Hanting's hand on the steering wheel tightened. Deng Huijun didn't notice it at all and continued, "Is it really like what the forum said? Mr. Guan, you like your student? You're dating her intimately on the weekend? The screeching sound of brakes was heard. Deng Huijun fell forward because of inertia. She subconsciously stretched out her leg to steady herself, but accidentally stepped on her sprained foot. Ouch! She couldn't help but cry out in pain. Guan Hanting didn't care about her at all. Mr. Deng, we've arrived at the place you want to go. Please get out of the car. Deng Huijun glared at him. I'm already like this, and you want to kick me out of the car? Please get off the car, Teacher Deng, said Guan Hanting coldly. Teacher Deng and I are not the same kind of people. Deng Huijun was stunned for a moment. She was sure that this man really didn't pity her at all. She cursed under her breath and limped out of the car. What kind of man is that? She spat. After making sure that Deng Huijun got out of the car, Guan Hanting stepped on the accelerator without hesitation. The car quickly disappeared from Deng Huijun's sight. Deng Huijun took out her phone to make a call and accidentally swiped to the forum page. Looking at the man with calm eyes and gentle temperament in the photo, and thinking of the man who refused to listen to her just now, Deng Huijun was furious. Guan Hanting, Zhang Yu, just you wait. Gu Shengyin was innocently implicated. She had no idea that Guan Hanting had drawn another wave of hatred for her. However, if she knew what had happened, she would probably only say, "Well done." 8 o'clock ended. Tomorrow's update should be around 12 a.m. See you all tomorrow. Begging for votes at the beginning of the month. Everyone who has a guaranteed monthly vote or a recommendation vote, please give it to Gao Lengji. Let's get on the list. Chapter 1808. Deng Huijun rushed home angrily. Zhao Li was sitting on the sofa watching a show. Seeing her daughter like this, she quickly asked what happened. Deng Huijun's foot was in pain, and she was very upset. Zhao Li gave her a glass of juice. Deng Huijun drank 2 mouthfuls, and the anger in her heart subsided a little. She opened her mouth and said, "Mom, that Zhang Yu really inherited her mother's nature. She's still in school, but she's already seduced the famous cold prince in our school. He's so protective of her." Zhao Li looked at her reclining on the sofa and frowned. "Huijun, what did I teach you?" Deng Huijun's expression froze. She hurriedly straightened her posture and regained her elegant and calm appearance. "Mom, I was just angry." Zhao Li had been strict with her only daughter since she was young. Not only did she send her to dance lessons, but she also hired a professional etiquette teacher to teach her. According to her, she wanted to nurture her daughter into a true lady of the upper class. Apparently, her strictness had paid off. Outside, many people who saw Deng Huijun were full of envy and praise. However, no one knew what they said in private. After all, Zhao Li's affair with Deng Yuanlin back then, forcing the legal wife to step down and successfully becoming Mrs. Deng, was not a secret in the upper-class circle of Green City. Many people knew that the only daughter of the Deng family was an illegitimate daughter who could not be shown in public back then. Only Deng Huijun herself did not know. Zhao Li said with satisfaction, "That's more like it. Tell me, what's wrong with that Zhang Yu?" Speaking of this, Deng Huijun's face was full of anger. She exaggerated a lot about Zhang Yu, especially the rumor that he was in a relationship with a teacher that had caused a lot of commotion in school in recent days. She looked at her with disdain. "Tell me, what ability does she have to attract a man like Teacher Guan? So many boys in a university can't forget her?" Zhao Li did not speak. After her daughter finished speaking, she glanced at her and suddenly asked, "Do you have any thoughts about that Teacher Guan in your heart?" Deng Huijun looked a little uncomfortable. Zhao Li acted as if she did not see it and continued, "He doesn't like you?" Deng Huijun looked embarrassed. "Mom." Zhao Li said, "Okay, I gave birth to you. What can't you tell your mother? Don't beat around the bush when you're talking to me." Deng Huijun's expression was still unnatural. She thought to herself that no matter who it was, she wasn't willing to tell such a shameful thing. Zhao Li said faintly, "You are the eldest daughter of the Deng family. What is a man?" Deng Huijun said, "Actually, I don't really like him that much. I just feel that he's not bad in all aspects. For a woman like her, she always had more considerations when it came to relationships. It was unrealistic to say that she loved someone so much that she couldn't live without them. Zhao Li asked, "You said that the man you like doesn't like you, but likes Zhang Yu, that silly girl?" Deng Huijun nodded. Zhao Li's expression turned ugly. She had always hated her younger sister's family. Now that she felt that Zhang Yu was better than her daughter in certain aspects, she was in a very bad mood. "Tell me, what kind of person is she?" Deng Huijun hesitated for a moment and told her about the 2 short meetings she had with Gu Shengyin. Chapter 1809. After listening, Zhao Li sneered. "She looks like a brainless person, but in fact, she's the most cunning." Deng Huijun also felt that Gu Shengyin was playing dumb with her. She suddenly said, "Mom, I can't take this lying down." Zhao Li glanced at her. "If you can't take it, then don't take it. You've been wronged, so naturally, you have to get back at her." Deng Huijun's eyes lit up. "How?" Zhao Li's eyes were cold. "It depends on you. Do you want to punish her a little, or do you want her to lose her reputation and not be able to make a comeback?" She looked at her daughter, as if waiting for her choice. Lose her reputation. Not being able to make a comeback. As long as Deng Huijun thought that these things would happen to Zhang Yu, her heart was a little excited. She looked at Zhao Li. "Mom, I want the latter." Zhao Li was satisfied. She nodded, and the mother and daughter began to discuss. Gu Shengyin heard the system's feedback. She smiled faintly and said, "I originally thought that Deng Huijun was a ruthless character, but I didn't expect that compared to her mother, she's just a small fry." The system said cooperatively, "The older the ginger, the spicier it is." Gu Shengyin looked at the system with an inexplicable expression. "I say, system, I feel that you're becoming more and more human." The system's white light flashed violently, and then it said calmly, "Host, the system will evolve as the host completes more tasks and levels higher." It meant that this was a normal phenomenon. Gu Shengyin reluctantly believed this excuse, but her heart became more doubtful. Another Wednesday passed. Guan Hanting and Gu Shengyin had no interaction at all these 2 days, and the popularity of the gossip between the two of them had decreased a lot. After all, in a place like a university, there were new things happening every day. Everyone's attention was quickly attracted by other things. In fact, Gu Shengyin and Guan Hanting did not have any contact with each other like what others thought. Since the text message that day, there seemed to be some subtle involvement between the two of them. When Gu Shengyin met Guan Hanting on the road, she would smile and greet him, and Guan Hanting would respond with a gentle expression. Until one day, Gu Shengyin received a text message on her phone. "Pretty sister, I'm Zhao Zhao. Pretty sister, when are you going to come and play with me? Zhao Zhao misses you so much. Alright, if you come to play with me, I'll tell pretty big sister what little uncle called pretty big sister." This was obviously not Guan Hanting's style. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but laugh when she thought of the cute little boy's chubby face. Song Ruan, who was sitting beside her, looked at her in confusion. "Meng Meng, why are you suddenly laughing?" Gu Shengyin quickly said, "I'm chatting with a child in my house. He's very cute." "Oh." Song Ruan was not interested in children, so she lowered her head again. Gu Shengyin did not reply to Song Ruan. When she checked her phone again, she saw 2 more messages. One was the address, Jinhe Garden XXXXX. Could this be Guan Hanting's address? Gu Shengyin instinctively looked it up on the web. It was near the business center of the city, and it was a high-end bachelor apartment area popular with white-collar workers. The second message, "The child is immature, don't mind him." Obviously, the main character was back. Gu Shengyin could even imagine Guan Hanting's calm and helpless expression. Chapter 1810. Guan Hanting just went to the kitchen to make a glass of juice for Zhao Zhao. When he came out, he saw the little guy playing with his phone. He never put anything private in his phone, so he didn't particularly care that his little nephew was playing with it. Therefore, he didn't even have a lock screen password. However, when he heard his little nephew mumbling something, he walked over and asked, "What are you doing, Zhao Zhao?" Zhao Zhao was startled. He didn't hold the phone firmly and it fell straight off the sofa and onto the carpet. Guan Hanting picked it up in amusement. "Am I that scary?" He picked up the phone and saw the conspicuous remark on it, "Cute rabbit." He was speechless when he saw the 2 messages on it. He tapped on his phone and sent an explanation text message. Then, he looked at his little nephew. His parents had a party in the afternoon, so they couldn't take him. His grandparents happened to be traveling. Thinking about it, Zhao Zhao's parents thought of Guan Hanting, who happened to be able to rest for half a day this afternoon. Guan Hanting liked this little nephew very much, so he readily agreed. But, wasn't this kid a bit too naughty? Looking at his uncle's calm eyes, Zhao Zhao couldn't help but shrink into the sofa. However, except for a few pillows on the sofa, there was only this cute little boy. Where could he shrink to? Therefore, the cute little boy was easily picked up by his uncle. "Are you scared now? Weren't you scared when you asked your pretty sister out?" Guan Hanting raised his eyebrows. Zhao Zhao blinked, and blinked again. He was still scared. He tried to look serious and said seriously, "Uncle, actually, I was asking pretty sister out for you." Guan Hanting. He couldn't help but laugh. This kid was so dramatic. He simply sat down on the sofa and reached out to pinch Zhao Zhao's cheek. "Why don't you tell me?" Zhao Zhao looked at his uncle nervously. When he saw his uncle's faint smile, he hurriedly said, "Uncle, don't you like pretty sister? But you don't ask her out to play? If you don't ask her out to play, how can my aunt come? How can there be a little girl to play with me in the future?" Guan Hanting suddenly revealed a smile. He gritted his teeth and said, "Zhao Zhao, be good. Tell me, who taught you this?" He did not think that a 5-year-old child would know so much. His uncle was clearly smiling, but Zhao Zhao felt a strong sense of crisis. This feeling made him betray his father without hesitation. "Father said so." "Very good." Guan Hanting smiled coldly. "Guan Hanqing, you've taught him well." Guan Hanqing, who was driving to the party with his wife, suddenly felt a little cold. Guan Hanting looked down at his nephew, whose eyes were wide open but could not hide his nervousness. He said helplessly, "Uncle, are you that scary?" Zhao Zhao thought to himself, "That's right. She's much scarier than Daddy." But on the surface, he was still stubborn. "Of course not." Guan Hanting put him down helplessly and pointed to the juice on the coffee table. "Drink it." Zhao Zhao obediently held the cup with both hands and began to drink. Suddenly, he heard his uncle say, "If you want a little sister, ask your father to work hard." At this time, Guan Hanting's cell phone rang again. Zhao Zhao was about to take a look when Guan Hanting glanced at him with a faint smile. He shrank his neck and sat back silently. Chapter 18:11. I know. Zhao Zhao is very cute. Don't blame him. Guan Hanting glanced at him in silence. Suddenly, he took out his phone and snapped a photo of his nephew. The cute boy was dumbfounded. He held his glass of juice and stared at the photo with wide eyes. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but laugh when she saw the photo. Was Mr. Guan telling her that he didn't punish Zhao Zhao? On the other hand, Zhao Zhao couldn't help but pout when he saw the gentle expression on his uncle's face. His uncle was still denying it? He must be chatting with pretty sister. He looked happier than when he was talking to Grandma. Zhao Zhao decided that when his grandparents came home, he would tell them the good news. This way, Grandma wouldn't have to worry about his uncle not being able to find his aunt. Friday. After class, Gu Shengyin and Song Wanwan walked around the school in high spirits. They didn't have classes for the weekend. Just thinking about it made them feel relaxed. Then, the two of them were stopped by someone. It was Deng Huijun. She wasn't dressed like a lady today. She was dressed in a fresh and casual style and her shoes were casual. Clearly, she was still a little traumatized from the previous time she sprained her ankle. It looks like you from afar. It's really you, Zhang Yu. Deng Huijun smiled affectionately. Gu Shengyin smiled at Deng Huijun and poked at her sore spot. Is your ankle better, Ms. Deng? Deng Huijun was speechless. She couldn't continue the conversation. She smiled and said, It's better now. Thank you for your concern. Gu Shengyin looked down at her shoes and said sincerely, I think you look good in these shoes too. Deng Huijun didn't want to talk about her ankle and shoes anymore. She glanced at Song Ruanruan. Her meaning was obvious. I have something to say to Zhang Yu. Song Ruanruan glanced at Gu Shengyin. She didn't feel safe leaving her alone. Gu Shengyin said, Ruanruan, you can go back first. Song Ruanruan knew that Zhang Yu was someone who had her own ideas. Seeing her like this, it was obvious that she knew what to do. Song Ruanruan then politely bid farewell to Deng Huijun. Deng Huijun drove Gu Shengyin to a tea house. Gu Shengyin looked around the tea house. It seemed that Deng Huijun didn't want to beat around the bush with him. She looked at the tea in front of her. The tea was refreshing, and a faint tea fragrance spread out along with the steam. Good tea. She praised sincerely. The smile on Deng Huijun's face was very obvious. Since it's good tea, student Zhang, you should try it. Gu Shengyin just slowly turned the teacup lid and did not pick it up. I still don't know why you are looking for me, Mr. Deng. Deng Huijun was a little annoyed when she saw that she refused to drink. She smiled and said, Actually, it's nothing much. I just want to thank you properly, Zhang Yu. Gu Shengyin put down the teacup lid in her hand, and the crisp sound of the teacup lid rang out in the quiet space. Oh. You drugged the tea. Is this your way of thanking me? Deng Huijun's expression changed drastically. She looked at Gu Shengyin. How did you know? She knew that she had said something wrong the moment she said it. Gu Shengyin stopped smiling. I didn't know at first, but now I am sure. She looked at Deng Huijun coldly. I just want to know why you are treating me like this, even though we have no grudge against each other. Teacher. First night watch. In the afternoon, Gao Langji had to accompany Grandma to buy clothes, so she didn't have time to write. I'll see you again at night. Then, please, vote. Chapter 1812. Deng Huijun stared at Gu Shengyin. She had no idea how the person in front of her knew that she had drugged the tea. She looked at the girl who was usually like a little white rabbit, sitting quietly in the seat opposite her. Her delicate face was expressionless as she stared at her. Deng Huijun actually felt a little pressure. How could it be? She was just a little girl in her early 20s. How could she make her feel pressured? Deng Huijun straightened her body as if this would make her look more confident. She didn't answer Gu Shengyin's question. Instead, she sneered, You usually use that little white rabbit look to deceive those men, right? Tell me, if Guan Hanting saw you like this, would he still like you? After she finished speaking, she met Gu Shengyin's eyes. She looked like she was looking at a joke. Gu Shengyin seemed to know Deng Huijun for the first time. Or could it be that Deng Huijun saw a deeper meaning in her eyes? So the teacher Deng I know is actually such an idiot? So, you drugged me because you were jealous of my good relationship with teacher Guan? Deng Huijun paused and then said coldly, Who's jealous of you? What do you have to be jealous of? Gu Shengyin leaned back in the chair behind her. Then it's because of the grudges of the previous generation, right? My cousin? Deng Huijun's eyes narrowed. She stared at Gu Shengyin. You actually know everything. Is it strange? I know that my mother has a sister who was kicked out of the house. I know that my so-called aunt gave birth to a cousin. Gu Shengyin said slowly. Her nonchalant attitude seemed to have angered Deng Huijun. Shut up. Deng Huijun raised her voice. What do you mean my mother was kicked out? It's obvious that the Zhao family is biased. My mother was so angry that she ran out of the house. Deng Huijun said sharply. Gu Shengyin shook her head gently and said regretfully, I really feel sorry for you, cousin. Deng Huijun stared at her with her eyes wide open. Gu Shengyin said, What's the point of living in a lie all your life? Deng Huijun saw that she was pretending to be mysterious and couldn't help but ask, What are you trying to say? The fish had taken the bait. Gu Shengyin slammed the lid on the teacup. She sat up straight, and her lazy appearance was swept away. Her entire person revealed the elegance and gentleness that was unique to the daughter of a scholarly family. Gu Shengyin spoke very slowly, as if she was afraid that Deng Huijun couldn't hear her clearly. I'm guessing that my good aunt never told you that she was chased out of the Zhao family because she gave up on a good marriage to be your father's mistress. Deng Huijun's face paled. She snapped, You're lying. Zhongyu, I'm warning you. Spreading rumors, slandering, and harming other people's reputation is punishable by law. Gu Shengyin shook her head gently. Spreading rumors. Who in the upper-class circle of Qing City doesn't know about your parents' shitty past? Her voice was very soft, but it seemed to have a mysterious power. It easily brought Deng Huijun's mind into the context she wanted. Think about it carefully, Miss Deng. Where did you grow up in the childhood that you don't remember? Chapter 1813. Deng Huijun looked a little absent-minded. It seemed that after hearing Gu Shengyin's words, her deliberately forgotten memories all came to the surface bit by bit. Yes, she had never seen her father before she was 4 years old. The place where she lived didn't seem to be the luxurious villa of the Deng family, but a small apartment. When she was young, she seemed to have cried and asked why she didn't have a father. Deng Huijun's face gradually lost color as these scattered memories came to her. She suddenly came to her senses and looked at Gu Shengyin, asking in a sharp voice, What did you do to me? What did you do to me? Why did those things appear in my mind? Gu Shengyin looked at her with obvious pity and ridicule in her eyes. Why do you have to do this? Teacher Deng, you know better than anyone that those are just things that you have experienced. You chose to escape, and your mother won't take the initiative to tell you these embarrassing things. Gu Shengyin raised the corner of her mouth into a wicked smile, but pretending that you don't know is just deceiving yourself and others. She leaned over and said to Deng Huijun word by word, Before you became the eldest daughter of the Deng family, Teacher Deng, you were just an illegitimate daughter who couldn't be seen in public. Pa! Deng Huijun was shocked and directly knocked the teacup in her hand to the ground, breaking it into pieces. Shut up! Deng Huijun stared at her. Shut up! Of course, Gu Shengyin didn't pay attention to her. She said leisurely, Even if I shut up, so what? If I don't say, Teacher Deng, will you pretend that nothing happened and continue to be the eldest daughter of the Deng family with a clear conscience? Her white fingers gently rubbed the edge of the teacup, and her voice was still calm. Do you still remember the Fong family 2 years ago? Why did they refuse to marry the Deng family? Deng Huijun suddenly raised her head. Shut up. Gu Shengyin only gave her an evil smile. That's because the Fong family looks down on your birth. Even if your mother is now the official wife, those who are truly upright wouldn't take a liking to a former mistress. An illegitimate daughter raised by a mistress. She quickly dodged to the left and dodged a bag that was thrown at her. She stood up and looked at Deng Huijun condescendingly. Her gaze was bone-chilling. How pitiful, Miss Deng. Where is your aristocratic upbringing? Deng Huijun raised her head and looked at him. She looked down at her from above, as if she was looking at a lowly ant. Then, she sneered at Zhongyu and left without hesitation. System, keep an eye on Deng Huijun during this period of time. I'm worried that she will act out of desperation. After coming out, Gu Shengyin said to the system. She had definitely provoked Deng Huijun just now. A person like Deng Huijun was a typical example of an arrogant person. The best way to deal with such a person was to use the most brutal means to crush all of her pride without mercy. Deng Huijun's biggest reliance was her birth. And Gu Shengyin was going to tear apart the thing she was proud of little by little. This was more effective than anything else. However, Gu Xingyin was also worried that she had pushed her too far. Deng Huijun couldn't figure it out at the moment. If she couldn't figure it out and wanted to die, it was fine. But if she wanted to drag someone down with her, Gu Shengyin wouldn't be happy. 6th update. 2 more updates. See you later. Chapter 1814. Gu Shengyin was still on her guard against Deng Huijun, but she didn't expect that some people didn't even need her to do anything to get herself into trouble. When she received the message from the system, she was dumbfounded. This idiot was actually Deng Huijun? It was simple. It was during the day. Deng Huijun probably received 100,000 plus critical hits from Gu Shengyin during the day. So she was sad. She went to the bar to find comfort. Bars had always been a place for adults to spend money. Whether it was money or desire. Deng Huijun's conditions were very good. Soon, men came to hit on her one after another. She found a more pleasing one among them. The two of them hugged and hugged each other all the way. In the hotel above the bar, they easily did it. But Deng Huijun never expected that she would actually fall here. That man was not only a married man, but he also had a mistress outside. If it was just this, it would be fine. But he was obviously not satisfied with having a mistress. He still wanted to find excitement outside. That man's wife had long given up on him. This time, she didn't know where she got the news from. Knowing that he was doing something good here, she directly gathered a group of her family and friends to come to his door. Deng Huijun was still in the fog with the man when a basin of cold water fell on her head, completely drenching her from head to toe. That woman didn't know what kind of mistress her man had outside looked like. At this moment, looking at Deng Huijun's appearance, enchanting figure, and delicate white skin, she was immediately jealous and resentful. Beat this shameless B*TCH to death. Deng Huijun didn't even have time to scream before she was grabbed by the hair and slapped thoroughly. In a daze, there were even men who took the opportunity to take advantage of her body. She had never been treated so rudely in her life. Who are you? I'm telling you, I'm going to call the police. What you're doing is illegal. She screamed as she dodged. Then, she heard the sound of the shutter being pressed non-stop. The fierce-looking woman sneered, "Call the police? Let the police take a good look at this shameless vixen who seduces other people's husbands. Beat him up." Deng Huijun had been knocked unconscious. This was nothing. Most importantly, when she woke up the next morning, she saw countless missed calls on her phone. As soon as she dialed, she was greeted by her mother, Zhao Li's sharp scolding, "Deng Huijun, what did you do last night? Have all the things I taught you been fed to the dogs? Are you shameless?" Deng Huijun panicked. "Mom, what's wrong? What happened?" Zhao Li said, "Look at the vlog yourself." Then she hung up the phone. Obviously, he was very angry. Deng Huijun had a bad feeling. She clicked on Weibo, and there was a hot topic on it. Woman brought her friends and relatives to the hotel to catch adultery. The mistress is as beautiful as a celebrity. Deng Huijun's trembling finger pointed downwards. She lost all her strength and fell to the ground. It's over. It's all over. Sure enough, not long after she scrolled down, someone directly exposed her identity. The eldest daughter of the Deng group, a graduate of a famous foreign university, a young and beautiful associate professor of a university. The more glamorous her identity was, the more exciting it was compared to the current situation. Chapter 1815. Deng Huijun hurriedly put on her clothes and went home. She didn't even dare to go to the hospital for fear of being recognized. Without a doubt, when she returned home, she was greeted with her mother's cold face and her father's disgusted scolding. Deng Yuanlin hadn't been nice to his daughter since he came home and saw her. Deng Huijun tried to argue that she wasn't a mistress and that she only knew that man at the bar. However, Deng Yuanlin just looked at her coldly. "You slept with a man you don't know? Deng Huijun, how cheap are you?" Deng Huijun's heart turned cold. Was this really something a father would say? She turned to look at her mother. Her mother, who had always doted on her, seemed to be looking at her with cold eyes. Deng Hui-jun, you disappoint me. Now, get back to your room. Don't be an eyesore in front of me. Deng Hui-jun's body swayed. She didn't expect that she would be treated like this by the person closest to her after such a thing happened to her. Deng Hui-jun locked herself in her room. She didn't even go to school for work. She didn't need to think to know that if she went to school at this time, what greeted her would definitely not be friendly care. Instead, it would be all kinds of mocking and disdainful gazes and probing with bad intentions. She browsed the news and Weibo like a madwoman. She hoped that all this was just a ridiculous dream. But it wasn't. Everything didn't stop. Instead, it became more and more popular. That woman had come prepared. She had planned to catch the adulterers in the act long ago. She wanted to divorce that man, and this time, catching them in the act and the photos in her hands were the best evidence. Deng Hui-jun's naked photos were posted on the internet. In addition to a lot of trolls, there were actually many who praised this dissipating body and good looks. However, in such a situation, such so-called praise had become a joke. Deng Hui-jun looked at her nude photos, circulating on the internet in despair. Although the relevant departments quickly responded by banning all the large-scale photos, it was still not easy to find them. Everything couldn't be stopped, and there was no way to return to when nothing had happened. Deng Hui-jun received an email notification on her phone. She was unilaterally fired by a university. The reason was that a teacher whose private life was so promiscuous might set a bad example for the students. Deng Hui-jun threw her phone aside and covered her head with a blanket. The feeling of lack of oxygen spread out, as if this was the only way to make her forget those things in her mind. She felt that she was really unlucky. Why did she have to encounter such a thing? She really fell unjustly. But at this time, the real mistress wouldn't be stupid enough to stand up for herself. As for the fact that she had slept with that man, there was no doubt about it. She didn't even have a place to wash. On the third day, Deng Hui-jun's door was opened from the outside. She was met with her father's cold gaze and a plane ticket to Country M. "I've booked a plane ticket for you. You'd better not stay here for the time being." "Dad, what do you mean?" Deng Hui-jun's eyes widened. She didn't expect him to be so heartless. Deng's group's stock price had been plummeting for the past few days. Deng Yuanlin was completely impatient with his daughter. The Deng family didn't need a daughter who would only drag the family down. Today's 8 chapters have all been released. Tomorrow's first update should be at around 12 noon. See you tomorrow. Now I'm third in the monthly votes category. I don't have a share in the overall ranking. Thank you for your support. Let the monthly votes reign even more fiercely. Chapter 18-16. Deng Yuanlin looked at his daughter in front of him. This daughter, before this, had always been his pride. Everyone in Green City knew that the eldest daughter of the Deng family, Deng Hui-jun, was elegant, generous, and had an outstanding temperament. She was the best among the socialites in Green City. But now, Deng Yuanlin looked at his daughter critically. The woman in front of him was wearing pajamas. Her pale face was faintly bruised, and her expression was somewhat gloomy. At this moment, what was the difference between her appearance and those ordinary passers-by outside? The eldest daughter of the Deng family, who had lost her glamorous dress and exquisite makeup, was just an ordinary person. Thinking of the trouble she caused a few days ago, and the countless doubts Deng Yuanlin received in the council these days, the last bit of pity in his heart for this daughter disappeared without a trace. Deng Yuanlin didn't even want to talk to her anymore. It's what it means. Hui-jun, you should also know that continuing to stay in Green City is not a good thing for you and the Deng family. He dropped this sentence, turned around, and left without hesitation. Deng Hui-jun stared blankly at the ticket thrown on the bed. The date on it was tomorrow. She had always thought that she was favored. But it wasn't until this moment that she realized that she was the one who could be abandoned at any time. She sat on the bed in a daze and didn't come back to her senses until a long time later. She clearly knew that she absolutely couldn't leave Green City and go abroad. Going abroad at such a sensitive time was basically telling others that she was the one who had been abandoned by the Deng family. And it was easy to go abroad, but difficult to come back. Her father had illegitimate children outside, and more than one. At this critical moment, if she went abroad, she might not get anything in the end. Why? She was the legitimate daughter. She should be the first heir of the Deng family's wealth. Deng Huijun was stunned for a while. She got up, tidied herself up, and went to her mother Zhao Li's room. At this time, her biological father was unreliable, but her biological mother was definitely on her side. Whether Zhao Li was doing it out of mother-daughter relationship or for her own status, she was willing to see her daughter stay in Green City and stay at home. Zhao Li didn't seem surprised to see her daughter. Before Deng Huijun could speak, she spoke first. If it's because of the matter of going abroad, I already know, and there's nothing I can do. She did not look well because she had argued with her husband about this matter not too long ago. The result was obviously not satisfactory. Deng Huijun opened her mouth. She did not expect that she would say such words. Zhao Li looked at her daughter, who was wearing exquisite makeup but still looked haggard. A trace of heartache flashed in her heart. She said, "Don't worry, Huijun. I won't let those people take away what belongs to you. Stay abroad for a while, and Mom will bring you back as soon as possible." Deng Huijun's heart turned cold. She didn't even have the chance to speak before Zhao Li finished everything she wanted to say. She had no other choice but to believe in her mother. Deng Huijun left. He had gone to a faraway country. It was half a planet away from Green City, where she grew up. She believed that her mother would try her best to bring her back. However, she didn't know that after she left, that woman just gently caressed her stomach. Chapter 1817. Everything that happened in the Deng family was like a comical farce. Gu Shengyin, on the other hand, was the one watching the show from the sidelines. When she knew that the Deng family had decided to send Deng Huijun abroad, she knew that Deng Huijun was done for. The Deng family's move was equivalent to banishing their daughter from the family. Deng Yuanlin had always been frivolous and cold-blooded. He did not care about his eldest daughter at all. He did not lack children. Zhao Li, who had been wholeheartedly planning for her only daughter, was now focused on another more important matter. She was pregnant. Compared to her eldest daughter, who had lost her husband's favor, the unborn child in her belly was obviously a bigger bargaining chip. After all, she was Deng Yuanlin's wife. Only her child was the rightful heir. Deng Yuanlin also paid great attention to this child. He was no longer young. The existence of this child seemed to prove something, which made him very happy. At this time, Deng Huijun, who was far away in Country M, did not know that her mother, who she thought would wholeheartedly plan for her and fight to bring her back, had long given up on her. For a woman like Zhao Li, she had feelings for her daughter. However, in her heart, the most important person would always be herself. A daughter who could no longer bring her any benefits, she would not spend too much effort on her. After Gu Shengyin was sure that Deng Huijun could not make any more waves, she stopped paying attention to the Deng family. Gu Shengyin closed his eyes gently to his aunt, who had never been kind to him and his mother, and murmured in his heart, "Don't worry. May that woman's wish never come true." After that, she had a fever for 3 days. Zhang Yu, who had always been healthy, suddenly had a high fever of 39 degrees and was unconscious. Song Wanwan was scared out of her wits. Gu Shengyin lay in the hospital for several days. Song Wanwan also took a few days off to accompany her. At first, Guan Hanting did not know anything. He did not see Gu Shengyin in class until that day. Not only did he not see Gu Shengyin, but he also did not see the girl who often hung out with her. Then, he saw the request for leave from the class committee member. Sick leave? Guan Hanting frowned. He didn't show anything on his face and calmly finished the lesson. After class, he sent a message to Gu Shengyin, "I heard that you took sick leave. Are you feeling better? There was no reply. His frown deepened. After thinking about it, he reached out and pressed a button. The phone rang for a while before a young female voice answered the phone. Hello. It wasn't Zhang Yu. Guan Hanting asked, I'm looking for Zhang Yu. Song Ruan thought that the voice on the other end of the phone sounded familiar. She hadn't noticed it before, but now that she saw the note that said, Teacher Guan, she finally reacted. She quickly said, I'm Zhang Yu's classmate, Song Ruan. Zhang Yu is in a coma in the hospital with a fever. She can't answer the phone. Where are you? The other party's cold voice sounded. Even through the phone, Song Ruan could feel a sense of pressure. She glanced at Gu Shengyin, who was lying on the bed, and gave him an address. Guan Hanting hung up the phone and drove toward the hospital that Song Ruan had given him. I came back after dinner today, so the update was a little late. I'm really sorry. First 2 updates, then 6. I'll upload 2000. See you later. Chapter 18:18. Gu Shengyin had unknowingly forgotten what he wanted to say earlier. She looked at Guan Hanting, who had placed the glass of water on the bedside table, and could not help but ask, Why are you here, Mr. Guan? Guan Hanting sat down again and said, I saw that you didn't come to class today, and then I saw the leave request from the class committee. I heard that you had a serious fever, so I came to take a look. He frowned and looked at Gu Shengyin. The weather hasn't changed these few days. Why did you suddenly have a fever? Gu Shengyin lowered his eyes when he heard that. What other reason could there be? It was what she had whispered in her heart yesterday. What Zhao Li wished for would not come true. The price to pay for this sentence was already beyond what Zhang Yu's body could bear. That was why she had such a high fever. Gu Shengyin shook her head gently. I don't know what happened either. I felt weak when I woke up this morning, and the world was spinning. When she woke up, she was in the hospital. Guan Hanting did not say anything. He only said, After your fever subsides in 2 days, you can do a physical checkup. Knowing that he was worried about her, Gu Shengyin nodded. The two of them suddenly fell into silence. Gu Shengyin looked around and suddenly said, Where's Ruan? If she guessed correctly, it was Ruan who came to take care of her. Guan Hanting thought of the girl and said, She said she went to get some hot water for you. Although he said that, Guan Hanting knew in his heart that it was just an excuse. At that moment, there was a soft knock on the door. A nurse came in with something, followed by Song Ruan. She was here to change her dressing. Guan Hanting stood up. I should go back. Gu Shengyin could not get up, so she could only say, Goodbye, Mr. Guan. Song Ruan walked Guan Hanting out of the ward. Guan Hanting had no intention of chatting with Song Ruan and was about to leave. Song Ruan called out to him. Mr. Guan. Guan Hanting stopped and turned to look at her. Song Ruan was a little nervous. She always felt pressured when facing Guan Hanting. But she still forced herself to ask, Mr. Guan, are you dating Meng Meng? She explained, Meng Meng is Zhang Yu. Guan Hanting denied it. No. Guan Hanting thought for a moment and roughly understood what was going on. He looked at Song Ruan with a warm gaze. She and I are not in that kind of relationship for now. Song Ruan being an Ruan and Ruan aunt. However, Guan Hanting clearly didn't intend to explain in detail. He just nodded at her and left. Ruan Ru, T. Est have her. T.S. She still had a slight fever, but her mental state was obviously much better. Song Ruan thought about what Guan Hanting had said before and shook her head. Nothing. I'm just a little tired. Forget it. It's better not to make Meng Meng worry about these things. Hearing her words, Gu Shengyin felt a little guilty. I've made you tired this time. Song Ruan waved her hand. That's nothing. What's our relationship? Chapter 18-19. She looked at Gu Shengyin and saw that she was still a little embarrassed, so she said, "All right, when you're better, remember to treat me to a big meal to reward me." Gu Shengyin smiled. "Okay, I'll eat wherever you want." Song Ruanruan smiled. "I know you're rich. I'll eat until you're broke." Gu Shengyin stayed in the hospital for 4 days. After the first day, Guan Hanting never came to see her again. On the day that Gu Shengyin was discharged from the hospital, she stood under the sun with a satisfied look on her face. "It feels so good to bask in the sun." Song Ruanruan stood behind her with her bag. "So remember to take care of yourself in the future. Don't catch a cold again." Gu Shengyin turned around and smiled at her. "Got it, little housekeeper Song." Song Ruanruan pretended to be angry. "Great. You're despising me now that you're discharged?" Everything in the school was as usual. Gu Shengyin received a lot of greetings when she went to class. Many of them were still worried about her. Guan Hanting taught them as usual. But one day 2 weeks later, he suddenly stopped teaching just as the class was about to end. "Due to personal reasons, this is the last time I'll be teaching you," he said calmly. As soon as he said that, the quiet classroom instantly became noisy. No one expected Guan Hanting to suddenly do something like this. To be honest, although his classes were strict, they were not rigid. The students did learn a lot. Many of them still felt a little reluctant. Some bold students directly asked why. Guan Hanting's expression did not change. "It's because of personal reasons that I can't disclose. The school has already agreed to my request. If I walk out of here today, I'm no longer your teacher Guan." Gu Shengyin was also very surprised. She did not know what had happened to Guan Hanting. Song Ruanruan also looked at her with a confused expression. Song Ruanruan originally thought that Gu Shengyin knew, but it seemed that she did not know either. The bell rang for the end of class. But this time, no one rushed out of the classroom as impatiently as before. Guan Hanting, on the other hand, was calm as he packed up his things. Then he turned around and smiled for the first time. "Goodbye, everyone." Everyone watched in silence as he walked out of the classroom. "Goodbye, Teacher Guan." Song Ruanruan looked at Gu Shengyin carefully, as if afraid that she would be sad. She comforted her. "Don't be sad. Maybe Teacher Guan really has something important to tell you." Gu Shengyin exhaled. "I'm not sad. Just a little." She took out her phone, found the familiar number, and tapped it a few times. "Teacher." Her fingers stopped abruptly. What was she going to say? "Say goodbye?" Question. After withdrawing, Gu Shengyin pondered for a moment and decided not to press on. She did not expect to receive a message? This is not goodbye. 5 words without rhyme or reason. Gu Shengyin glanced at it. What did Guan Hanting mean by this? She sent. There was no reply from the other side. Gu Shengyin shook her head and put her phone in her bag. The last class in the afternoon was over. Gu Shengyin was about to return to the dormitory with Song Ruanruan when her phone rang. It was Guan Hanting. Gu Shengyin picked up the call. "Teacher Guan." There seemed to be a hint of laughter in his voice. "You're still calling me Teacher Guan?" Gu Shengyin was speechless. What should he call her then? 6 chapters. There were 2 chapters. In the comment section, there were babes asking when the remaining chapters would be written. Gao Langji wrote it on the spot, so it took about an hour for her to finish 2 chapters. If she was stuck, it would take a little longer. Chapter 18-20. She was at a loss for words. It didn't take long for Guan Hanting to figure out the reason. Gu Shengyin felt that he seemed to have smiled. Then she heard Guan Hanting say, "I'm at the south gate now. Can you come over if you have time? I have something important to talk to you about." Gu Shengyin glanced at Song Ruanruan beside her and suddenly had an idea. "Alone?" Guan Hanting replied, "Alone." Gu Shengyin nodded. "Okay." She hung up the phone and looked at Song Ruan. Ruan, I have something to do. Song Ruan already knew who was on the other end of the phone. She smiled ambiguously. Got it. Go ahead. Gu Shengyin walked toward the south gate of the school. He wasn't wearing the suit jacket from today's class. Obviously, he had changed his clothes. Gu Shengyin walked up to him and called out, Mr. Guan, out of habit. After calling him that, she remembered what had happened and felt a little embarrassed. Guan Hanting noticed it and didn't say anything. He just opened the car door and said, Let's go. Gu Shengyin asked in confusion, Where are we going? Guan Hanting's answer was concise. To eat. Gu Shengyin was speechless. She couldn't figure out what Guan Hanting meant. Did he ask her to come here just to have a meal? But she didn't refuse. Guan Hanting seemed to have planned this a long time ago. He drove straight to a place. Gu Shengyin looked up. She had been here before. It wasn't a top-notch place, but the environment was top-notch and the food was delicious. Guan Hanting had booked a private room. Obviously, he had made a reservation in advance. When the two of them entered, the last dish had just been served. Gu Shengyin looked at the car and suddenly said, Mr. Guan, you knew that I would come? Guan Hanting looked at her and shook his head. No, I wasn't sure. Gu Shengyin was surprised. Then you ordered the food here? Wasn't he afraid that it would go to waste? Guan Hanting smiled and looked deeply at Gu Shengyin. Maybe you won't come, maybe you will. I only need to consider that if you come, I won't be delayed because of my lack of preparation and affect my mood. Gu Shengyin picked up the teacup and took a sip. Why did she have a feeling that she was being teased by this man? Let's eat, Guan Hanting said. He could tell that Gu Shengyin seemed a little uncomfortable. Gu Shengyin nodded, and the two ate quietly. There was no rule of not talking while eating. In fact, the two of them were chatting happily. After all, it was dinner, so neither of them ate much. Guan Hanting asked someone to clean up the table, and in the blink of an eye, juice and desserts were served. When the waiter left and the room returned to silence, Gu Shengyin knew that the main event was about to begin. She didn't touch the juice beside her and looked at Guan Hanting quietly. Guan Hanting seemed to hesitate for a moment, but he still said, Actually, I didn't come here just to treat you to dinner. Gu Shengyin nodded. She could tell. Guan Hanting said again, Meng Meng, is that your nickname? I heard your friend call you that before. Gu Shengyin nodded again. So what do you want to say? Guan Hanting finally revealed his purpose. You know that I have resigned from a university, Meng Meng. Now that I am no longer your teacher, are you willing to let me pursue you as a normal man? Chapter 18:21. He looked at Gu Shengyin, his black eyes twinkling with starlight. Gu Shengyin looked at him. Her mouth opened and closed, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she stood up. He walked to Gu Shengyin's side and leaned down. His aura enveloped her. Gu Shengyin heard the man's voice in her ear. Can I hug you? Meng Meng. There was a touch of cautiousness in his words that even he didn't know. Gu Shengyin took the initiative to raise her hand and put it around his waist. Then she found that her whole vision had changed. A strong force pulled her up from her seat, and she was tightly held in the man's arms. Guan Hanting lowered his eyes. His eyes were filled with joy. Today must be my lucky day. Gu Shengyin smiled. I think so too. It's a surprise. Maybe it was Guan Hanting's character. Although the two of them confirmed their relationship tonight, they didn't do anything extra after this simple hug. Guan Hanting sent her to the school gate. Gu Shengyin got out of the car and walked to the school. After walking for a while, she suddenly turned around. Sure enough, the man was still standing there, looking at her. Gu Shengyin glanced at the students of a university, who were walking around, and suddenly ran toward Guan Hanting. Then, under Guan Hanting's astonished gaze, she slammed into his arms. Some students nearby saw this scene, and many of them looked over curiously. Among them, Some people had already recognized Guan Hanting and Zhang Yu. After all, the two of them were not unknown figures in the school. "Why are you?" Guan Hanting hugged Gu Shengyin tightly. The warmth of the person in his arms made him reluctant to let go. Gu Shengyin said sullenly, "I couldn't help it when you stood here alone and watched me walk away." Guan Hanting heard this and laughed. He reached out and stroked Gu Shengyin's hair. "All right, don't be so reluctant. We still have a long future ahead of us. You have to go back to the dormitory." He slowly loosened his embrace. Gu Shengyin looked at the man opposite her seriously. "Will you miss me?" she asked softly. Guan Hanting was stunned. He reached out his hand and helped Gu Shengyin tuck her hair away from her cheek. Then he admitted helplessly, "Yes." "Then why are you still letting me go?" Gu Shengyin looked at her and suddenly smiled. It was completely different from the youthful and delicate feeling she usually gave off. There seemed to be a different kind of charm hidden in this smile. Guan Hanting only felt that there were two little hooks in her eyes, causing his heart to stir. His gaze suddenly darkened. Gu Shengyin was very satisfied with the effect he had created. She leaned closer to Guan Hanting and whispered in his ear, "Couples can be more intimate." Guan Hanting's body stiffened. Then, Gu Shengyin felt that her eyes were covered by a pair of warm hands. The other party gritted his teeth and said helplessly, "Be a good girl and go back to the dormitory." Gu Shengyin blinked and removed the hands covering her eyes. She couldn't help laughing out loud. Guan Hanting looked at her with forbearance and indulgence. When he noticed the smile in the other party's eyes, he knew that his little girl was deliberately teasing him. Guan Hanting looked down as he watched her figure walk away. "When the time comes, I will let you know. What did she mean by men are not to be teased?" Chapter 1822. When Gu Shengyin returned to the dormitory, she was met with Song Ruanruan's gossipy gaze. Song Ruanruan looked at her suggestively. "Aren't you going to tell me something?" Gu Shengyin looked at her calmly and nodded. "We're together." Song Ruanruan. She was just gossiping. She never expected to find out about something so important. She looked at Gu Shengyin with excitement. When did this happen? It's really too shocking." She never thought that her roommate would really pluck Mr. Guan, the untouchable flower. Gu Shengyin still looked calm. "Just now." Song Ruanruan reacted immediately. "Just now? Did Teacher Guan just confess to you?" Gu Shengyin nodded. Song Ruanruan opened her mouth. She had a long list of questions. However, Gu Shengyin beat her to it and said, "If you want to ask me how he confessed, how I agreed to it, and what we did together, please keep your mouth shut." Song Ruanruan. How ruthless. These were the questions she wanted to ask the most. In the end, Gu Shengyin gave a brief account of what happened under Song Ruanruan's pestering. Knowing that Guan Hanting had resigned because of Gu Shengyin, Song Ruanruan's eyes were practically sparkling. She rested her chin on her hands and said with a fascinated expression, "A man like Mr. Guan is the perfect Prince Charming in my heart." She then realized the relationship between her best friend and her Prince Charming. She quickly added, "Don't worry, Meng Meng. I only admire my Prince Charming. I don't covet him at all." Gu Shengyin smiled and rolled her eyes at her. She did not say a word. Just like that, the days passed quietly. 2 months later, just as Gu Shengyin was about to welcome the long break of the semester, she received news that Zhao Li had a miscarriage. It was said that she had accidentally been frightened by a stray dog that had somehow snuck in while she was out for a walk. She was already at an advanced age and her pregnancy was not stable. With the scare, she saw red that night. In the end, it was not saved. Zhao Li was disappointed, but Deng Yuanlin was even more disappointed than her. He had high hopes for this child too. Deng Yuanlin blamed Zhao Li for the miscarriage of the child. He was no longer willing to see her and spent every night in the gentle village outside. 2 years later, Gu Shengyin heard the news of the Deng Group's master and his wife's divorce. Probably because she lost her child and was hated by her husband, Deng Yuanlin could no longer tolerate Zhao Li's increasingly violent temper. Even at this time, Deng Huijun was still in the United States. This showed how ruthless this father was, a heartless father. Just as Zhao Li had expected, the property she got from the divorce was far from what she should have. She filed to court. However, since a man like Deng Yuanlin dared to ask for a divorce, he was naturally prepared. In the end, Zhao Li could only leave the Deng family with a small amount of compensation. It wasn't until more than a month later that Deng Huijun, who was far away in the US, received news of her parents' divorce. As for her, she was awarded to her mother. Was her she with his ability? If he wanted a daughter, he would never let her be given to his wife. He just did not want to raise such a burden. Gu Shengyin turned off the news on her phone and no longer looked at it. Meng. Someone called her not far away. Gu Shengyin responded and walked toward the person. She took his hand in hers. Guan Hanting. The other person's voice was a little confused. Meng rarely called him so seriously. I love you. This world is over. See you later. Chapter 1823. The universe was filled with chaos and darkness. There was no heaven and earth. The entire world was gray and confused. God said, "Let there be light." And so, there was light in the world. Over the next few days, God used his boundless power to create air, gather water, create the sun, moon, stars, birds, and beasts. The world began to be filled with vitality. Then, God used his hands to create the most beautiful creatures in the world, the emissaries representing God, angels. Gu Shengyin felt as if he had fallen into a state of chaos. She couldn't open her eyes. Her ears couldn't hear. Her consciousness couldn't perceive anything. Until a ray of powerful radiance broke through the ancient darkness and illuminated her world. Her chaotic divine sense finally seemed to be able to breathe and became clear. Thou art my creation, the eighth seraph. God looked at the figure in front of him and suddenly hesitated. He couldn't see through her future. He couldn't even guess what she would be in charge of. This was the first time the omnipotent God felt at a loss. In front of her, there were 7 companions who were born before her and were born with knowledge. The seraphs were also very curious as they looked at their companion who was still in the form of a baby. The newly born angels all understood everything. They looked at each other and for the first time, directly saw the difference between their companion and themselves. She didn't have wings. As the seraph leader, the deputy king of heaven, Lucifer directly asked his doubts. God, what is her name? Why doesn't she have wings? Lucifer was the God's most satisfied creation, and also his favorite angel. God was silent for a moment when he heard this question, because the existence of this seraph was beyond the expectations of the laws. As the God of creation, every angel born from his hands would be clearly written in the book of creation, their name, their duties, and even their future. 7 was a fixed number. But now, in the high crystal sky, there appeared the 8th seraph that even God didn't expect. God's lips finally moved and said, "Carry, the silver-haired seraph, the noble angel, the incarnation of God." The book of creation emitted a huge golden light as it faithfully recorded these words. Gu Shengyin could feel an immense power coming from the void and entering her body. At the same time, the body of the silver-haired baby girl floating in the air began to change rapidly and elongate. Almost instantly, she turned into a beautiful woman with silver hair, silver eyes, and a gentle face. Her body was naked. Newborn angels didn't have any sense of shame. Fortunately, her long silver hair covered her body, so people couldn't see her important parts. However, at this moment, the gods felt that this scene was inexplicably dazzling. His cold voice rang out in the minds of all the angels. "You are my emissaries. You should set an example for all living beings. You must not be naked." As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light flashed on all the angels, and a layer of soft white robes appeared on them. Gu Shengyin lowered her head to look at herself. She looked at the god in front of her, who was shrouded in blinding holy light. Suddenly, she smiled and threw herself at him. Even the divinity himself couldn't react in time, because no angel would dare to do such a rude thing to him. Chapter 18:24. Furthermore, the holy light around the god wasn't just for show. It would hurt her. The god instinctively wanted to dodge, but he underestimated Carrie's speed. The silver-haired blazing angel crashed straight into the god's embrace. The god instinctively reached out his hand to cover her. He was stunned. Why was Carrie able to ignore the holy light? The other blazing angels were also shocked. They didn't know what the holy light on the god's body was used for. But as the god's creations, they believed in the god from the bottom of their souls and were naturally respectful of the god, so they definitely wouldn't dare to act so disrespectfully. As the blazing angel leader chosen by the god, Lucifer was the first to kneel down. Please forgive Carrie, God behind her. The other 6 blazing angels also knelt down. They naturally thought that the god would be displeased because of this. But in reality, he wasn't. The god was more shocked than angry right now. Or perhaps it should be said that he wasn't angry because of Carrie's actions. Gu Shengyin almost couldn't control her actions. The moment she opened her eyes, the instinct of wanting to get close to her creator made her body react faster than her mind. Crashing into the holy light, it was also the first time Gu Shengyin saw the god's face that no living creature had ever seen before. Perfect. Apart from these 2 words, there was no other adjective that could describe the face of a deity. As a body formed by the laws, the god's true body, every inch of it was flawless. It was even more impactful than Lucifer, who was said to be perfect and the most beautiful among the blazing angels. Gu Shengyin smiled happily. God, I actually have the same hair color as you. This was also why the god was shocked at the time. He knew very well that as creations, even the most powerful blazing angel didn't have the right to have something similar to the gods. But the Carrie in front of him didn't just have the same hair color as him, even her face was 70% similar to his. This was also why he set Carrie's status as the incarnation of the god in the Book of Creation. The god used his divine power to push away the angel in his arms and said in an emotionless voice, "Carrie, have you forgotten the etiquette of angels?" Gu Shengyin's consciousness seemed to have finally returned to her body when the gods pushed her away. She took a step back and, like the other seraphs, knelt before the figure in front of her. "My God, please punish Carrie for her rudeness." He lowered his head submissively and was incomparably respectful. This was the angelic form that the gods had hoped to see the most. However, when he saw Carrie kneeling before him, he felt an inexplicable sense of irritation. Even though they had lived in the darkness of chaos for trillions of years, the gods had never felt anything like this. He couldn't help but ask the Book of Creation, "You really don't know Carrie's background?" The Book of Creation was very honest. There are no records of Carrie in the Book of Creation. This everything not only included the past, but also the future. All living beings could be traced back to their past in the Book of Creation. As long as God was willing to use his divine power, he could also perceive the future. As the God of creation, everything in this world was under his control. But now, there was a variable. This variable was Jialian. Actually, I regretted writing the first chapter as soon as I started. I wrote 2 chapters in 2 hours. Starting from the first word, I was stuck like a dog. If I can't finish 4 chapters, I'll add them tomorrow. Scary. Chapter 18:25. In the end, God didn't punish Carrie. He divided all the angels according to their duties. Until it was Carrie's turn. God felt a bit of a headache. He didn't know what to do with Carrie. Ever since the other angels were born, the laws had already stated their duties, but Carrie didn't. He thought for a bit, then finally spoke, "Carrie, stay by my side for now." As soon as he said that, the angels were shocked again. Staying by God's side meant that they would have to stay in the crystal heaven where God resided. The crystal heaven was one of the places with the densest Holy Spirit power in heaven, as well as the place where the pressure of heaven was the strongest. The blazing angels were barely able to stay here, but if a cherub below the blazing angel level were to appear in the future, they wouldn't even be able to stay here. With their strength, they wouldn't be able to withstand the might of the crystal heaven. Angels were divided into 3 levels: upper angels, middle angels, and lower angels. Among them, the upper angels were blazing angels, cherubs, and thrones. Middle angels were Lord angels, virtue angels, and ability angels. Lower angels were authority angels, archangels, and normal angels. The 8 blazing angels, including Carrie, were the most honorable highnesses in the entire heaven other than the gods. Even if the blazing angels weren't affected by the crystal heaven's might for a short period of time, from what God said, Carrie wouldn't be staying in the crystal heaven for a short period of time. If that was the case, Gabriel, who also had a female appearance, looked at Carrie with a bit of worry. Gu Shangyin didn't understand the worry of her compatriots at all. In fact, when she heard this news, she felt like a flower had bloomed in her heart. She had a natural sense of admiration for the gods. To be able to get closer to God was the happiest thing in the world for Carrie. As for the crystal heaven's holy light that made all blazing angels feel threatened, Carrie didn't notice anything wrong with it. The gods also realized that this 8th seraph, who was out of their expectations, was completely different from the other seraphs. Rather than calling her a blazing angel, it was more like himself. God could only suppress this thought in his mind. In this world, there was only one God of creation. Those were the words of the laws. No matter what Carrie's identity was, she could only be a blazing angel. And so, the matter was settled. The other 7 blazing angels left the sacred hall. They had their own residences and were now going to start building their own palaces and dealing with their own matters. Only the deities and Gu Shangyin, who had nothing to do, were left in the sacred hall. The gods did not speak, so Gu Shangyin lowered her head and silently thought about her own matters. She didn't know why she had come to this world. After the mission in the previous world ended, she returned to the pure white space. After confirming that she still couldn't break through the spatial rift with her current strength, she chose to carry out the mission again. While transferring the world, she heard the system's voice. Data error, transmission error. After that, she came to this place. The system was nowhere to be found. Therefore, Gu Shangyin was completely dumbfounded by the current situation. She didn't know what kind of mission she would face in this world. Moreover, according to the status of this body, who could pose a threat to him? Could it be Gabriel? Chapter 1826. Carrie, the god sitting on the divine throne, suddenly spoke. Gu Shangyin raised her head when she heard that. Her gaze uncontrollably fell on the indescribable holy light. She was the only one in this world who had seen the god's face through the holy light. As if she was bewitched, Gu Shangyin walked towards the divine throne step by step. This behavior was close to being rude again. However, the god on the divine throne did not react at all. Gu Shangyin walked step by step to the front of the divine throne, then knelt down close to the god. She had an uncontrollable admiration and yearning for the god who created her. Gu Shangyin gently leaned her head on the god's knee. From her angle, she could only see the bright golden light. "My God!" she shouted in a low voice. She didn't have any accessories on her head. Her long, silvery hair flowed down her shoulders and landed loosely on the white jade floor. At this time, Carrie did not have the slightest majesty and nobility of a seraph. She was completely like a child who was acting coquettishly in front of the person she liked to be close to the most. In terms of age, Carrie, who was just born today, was indeed a child. The god's eyes trembled. Finally, he gently raised his hand and stroked the top of Gu Shangyin's head. He softly reprimanded, "As a seraph, how can you show such a weak appearance?" Gu Shangyin could hear that there was not much blame in the god's voice. She couldn't help but raise her head and rub the god's hand that had not left yet. Her pure silver eyes were full of smiles. Carrie will only act coquettishly in front of the god. Before Carrie was born, all the seraphs, including the god, were certain without a doubt that Lucifer, as a seraph leader, would be the most beautiful angel in the entire heaven. Because he was the brilliant morning star, the master of the stars. He was the seraph that the God created with the greatest patience and energy, the closest to himself. He even had the title Phil, that the God personally gave him. The other blazing angels that were born later also proved this point. Be it in terms of appearance or power, no blazing angel could compare to Lucifer. That was until Carrie appeared. Looking at the silver-haired, silver-eyed fellow who was completely different from them and had no wings, all of the blazing angels fell into confusion and silence. Her appearance was comparable to Lucifer's unparalleled beauty. Her strength was something that no blazing angel could see through. She did not have the 6 wings that symbolized the noble status of a blazing angel. Carrie was an extremely mysterious existence in the hearts of all angels. However, the gods had personally admitted that she was a blazing angel. The seraphs did not doubt the words of their God at all. They completely acknowledged that Carrie was one of them. Actually, even the gods themselves were not clear about this. In this world, Carrie was the first existence that he couldn't control. After all, it was his creation. Looking at the blazing angel lying on his knees, a rare trace of pity flashed through God's heart that had never wavered before. Carrie, the great cathedral that I live in is not suitable for a blazing angel to live in. Build your own palace outside the great cathedral. Yes, my God. Gu Shengyin lowered her head and listened to the order. Seeing Carrie's figure disappear from the great cathedral, the god supported his forehead with one hand and began to think about how to arrange Carrie in the future. God, oh. How's the God Queen? Today's 6th update. I won't update today. I'll go look up some information tonight and organize my thoughts. This kind of theme is too challenging. Tomorrow's update will make up for today's 2 chapters. Good night everyone. While I'm at it, I'll ask for another ticket. Chapter 1827. In heaven, where God existed, all the rules were set up very easily. In the angel reincarnation pool, new angels were constantly born. Among them, there were 2-winged and 4-winged ones, but the highest was only a cherub, and there were very few of them. In the entire heaven, only the 8 majesties created by God himself had the rank of seraph. 100,000 years later, when heaven's first creation celebration was held, Gu Shengyin finally welcomed her first job. The Dean of Angel Academy. Angel Academy was a place for the newly born little angels to learn knowledge and magic. Other angels were not born with perfect bodies like seraphs. Like ordinary creatures, they would go through the transformation from infancy to adulthood. As the power in their bodies grew stronger, they would finally transform into a perfect body, which was also the peak state of an angel. After the creation celebration, the gods disappeared without a trace. Carrie. Gu Shengyin stood on the steps, wondering if she should go to Angel Academy to take a look. Then, she heard her name being called. In the entire heaven, there were only 2 people who could call her by her name. God and Seraph. Gu Shengyin turned around and performed a perfect etiquette in the direction of the voice. Your Highness Lucifer. The angel standing in front of her had a beautiful face that surpassed all of heaven. His pale blue eyes seemed to reflect the entire sky, and his long golden hair was one of the most dazzling colors in the world. He wore a gorgeous robe that symbolized his status as a seraph, and the 6 wings of holy light quietly fell behind him. Gu Shengyin looked at Lucifer and sighed in her heart. This noble seraph was definitely a natural winner in life. Lucifer's gentle eyes revealed a trace of helplessness. Carrie, I said before, there's no need to call me Your Highness. Carrie said seriously, Your Highness, there's a difference in status. Since she was personally designated as a seraph by God, then as a seraph, Lucifer was naturally her superior. Lucifer stared at his companion in front of him. He could sense that his companion was different. Seraph Lucifer was one of the most beautiful angels in heaven, and also one of the most powerful angels in heaven. This was one of them. The other was Carrie. Lucifer was already powerful enough to comprehend a portion of the laws. He could vaguely sense that this shouldn't be the case. Under normal circumstances, he should be the one and only brilliant morning star, the the most powerful deputy of heavenly kingdom. However, angels were the embodiment of the 7 virtues, and they had the purest faith in the gods. At most, Lucifer was puzzled in his heart. He wasn't jealous or suspicious of Carrie's identity. The gods said that she was a seraph, their companion, so Carrie was. So he smiled gently. You will be the dean of the Angel Academy. Carrie, you haven't been to the Angel Academy yet, right? Let me show you. Gu Shengyin smiled and thanked him. Thank you, Your Highness Lucifer. Not far away, the other seraphs and angels were looking at the 2 seraphs on the steps closest to the throne. Gabriel, who was the only female among the seraphs, sighed and said, Every time I see His Highness Lucifer and His Highness Carrie standing together, it's a pleasure. Chapter 1828. The other seraphs nodded in agreement. There were also differences in status among the seraphs. Those with lower status would call those with higher status Your Highness. Lucifer was a seraph leader and was the number 1 seraph by default. All seraphs respectfully called him Your Highness. Although Carrie didn't have a clear position, from her strength and the gods' extraordinary love for her, she was undoubtedly second only to Lucifer among the seraphs. Seraphs were pure and kind by nature and never hid their pursuit of beauty. As Lucifer's adjutant, Michael blinked his red eyes and suddenly said to Metalin, who was standing beside him, Your Highness Metalin, your drawing skills are so good. Can you draw this beautiful scene? Other than Lucifer and Carrie, only Metalin, the Prime Minister of Heaven, could be called Your Highness by the other seraphs. Metalin was the most gentle of the seraphs. When he smiled, ripples seemed to spread in his blue eyes. Michael, if you can get His Highness Lucifer and Her Highness Carrie's consent, I'll make a painting for you. How about it? He was also looking forward to a painting that included the 2 highnesses. Michael's personality was the most unpredictable. As the adjutant of a seraph leader, he was often caught by Lucifer at work. He thought about it and gave up in frustration. Forget it. I'm afraid His Highness will ask me about work again. He looked longingly at the people who were talking to each other and secretly took out the magic crystal ball. Samuel's eyes widened. Michael, you're crazy. He was the angel of death in charge of life and fate and the warden of the seraph prison. In terms of personality, Samuel was the most serious of all the seraphs. Michael smiled and said, God and the 2 highnesses never said that I can't record them with a crystal ball. Samuel, don't worry, don't worry. Gabriel secretly smiled. She clearly saw that the moment Michael took out the crystal ball, His Highness Lucifer's gaze had turned towards her. His Highness didn't say anything, but Gabriel could already imagine the scene of Michael's crystal ball being confiscated. Gu Shengyin naturally noticed this as well. She smiled and said, It's been 100,000 years, but Michael's personality hasn't changed at all. Blazing angels represented the face of heaven, so they were naturally very strict in terms of etiquette and other aspects. From the moment he was born, Michael was the most lively of all the blazing angels. She didn't expect that after so many years, he would only be able to act a little more gracefully in front of outsiders. Once there were only a few close companions left, he immediately returned to his original form. Lucifer's smile remained unchanged. Perhaps I was too lenient with him. When we go back, we'll teach him a lesson. Gu Shengyin, Michael, good luck. All the angels in heaven knew that although His Highness Lucifer looked gentle, he was the one who paid the most attention to rules and etiquette. Michael fell into his hands, and it could be said that he was miserable. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but say, Your Highness, Michael doesn't have any ill intentions. Lucifer looked at her with a smile. I won't punish him. Don't worry, Gabriel. I'm just teaching him the etiquette that needs to be practiced. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but sympathize with Michael, who didn't know that Battle Angel Michael only liked to go to the battlefield and had no interest in the etiquette and history of heaven at all. Chapter 1829. The 2 walked towards Angel Academy. The creation celebration was held in Jupiter, second only to the 7th crystal heaven. Because most of the Angel Academy were little angels who had just been born from the angel reincarnation pool, their bodies couldn't withstand too much pressure, so it was located in the lunar heaven, the furthest from the crystal heaven. The two directly entered the lunar heaven through the teleportation array in the crystal heaven. The lunar heaven was generally a place where the lower 3 levels of angels lived. These angels were rarely seen even in the past, let alone the noble Seraph Highness. Along the way, Gu Shengyin kept hearing all kinds of exclamations, and angels kept bowing to the two of them. The fanaticism in the eyes of the angels made her a little speechless. Lucifer smiled and turned his head. Not used to it? Without waiting for Gu Shengyin's reply, he continued, You've lived in the crystal sky for a long time and rarely appeared in front of other angels in the past 100,000 years, especially the angels of the Luna. They've almost never seen you. He thought for a moment and said, When you become the Dean of Angel Academy, you will come here every day. You will soon get used to it. Gu Shengyin looked at him and was completely used to it. Some of the bolder angels would come up with red faces and give Lucifer a bouquet of flowers. Such angels were not rare. Gu Shengyin looked at their excited expressions and realized for the first time what kind of status Lucifer, as a seraph leader, had among the ordinary angels. No wonder when she chatted with the other seraphs, everyone said that Lucifer was the most popular and respected angel in the entire heaven. Lucifer turned his head and saw Gu Shengyin's amazed expression. He couldn't help but laugh. Don't be too surprised, Carrie. His smile was brighter than the sky. When you officially become the Dean of Angel Academy and those angels get familiar with you, you will also be treated with such enthusiasm. In the hearts of all the angels, there was a label for the noble Seraph Highness. The most powerful and beautiful seraph leader Lucifer. The most gentle and kind Prime Minister of Heaven, His Highness Metalon. The most serious and cold angel of death, His Highness Samuel. The most fiery and passionate battle angel, His Highness Michael. The kindest and most generous Archangel Gabriel. The most lazy and adorable Archangel, His Highness Beryl. The most knowledgeable and reliable guardian angel, His Highness Raphael. There was also the most mysterious person, Her Highness Jialian. Yes, the most mysterious. Unlike the other blazing angel highnesses, they all had their own positions. Many angels had seen them before and had some contact with them. But Gu Shengyin was different. She had been born for 100,000 years. Most of her time was spent in the crystal sky, in the great cathedral, accompanying God. Many people had never seen what Princess Carrie looked like or what her personality was like. There were even many angels who silently wondered who was more important in God's heart between His Highness Lucifer and Her Highness Carrie. Under the gazes of all the angels, they arrived at the Angel Academy. Not long after entering the gate, Gu Shengyin saw a small fireball flying towards her. The small fireball was flying in a crooked manner. Obviously, its caster was not able to fully control it. An attack of this level was naturally nothing to Gu Shengyin. She didn't even care as she continued to walk forward. The fireball automatically extinguished when it was a few meters away from her. Chapter 1830. Gu Shengyin and Lucifer didn't have much of a reaction. On the other side, the teacher who was teaching the little angels basic magic was scared out of his wits. He quickly walked in front of the two blazing angels. Greetings, Your Highness Lucifer. Greetings. He looked at Gu Shengyin's face and froze for a moment. He suddenly realized that he didn't know this person whose appearance was comparable to His Highness Lucifer's. Lucifer opened his mouth and said, This is Carrie, the new Dean of the Angel Academy. The angel hurriedly bowed to Gu Shengyin. Although ordinary angels like them didn't have the chance to see Carrie, the name of Blazing Angel Carrie was firmly engraved in their hearts. Gu Shengyin, on the other hand, looked at the little angel beside the angel. This little guy was clearly still very young. His 4 small wings hung softly behind his back. Soft golden curly hair piled on top of his head. His clear blue eyes were staring at her without blinking. Really cute, she thought to herself, and a natural smile appeared on her face. Little guy, what's your name? When the little angel heard Gu Shengyin talking to him, his face immediately showed a happy expression. The white wings on his back spread open and his whole body flew up in a crooked manner. However, their shaky appearance made the teacher very worried. This batch of newborn angels hadn't even started flying lessons yet. But when the teacher saw that the two noble highnesses were looking at the little angel, he relaxed. With the two highnesses here, they wouldn't let anything happen to the little angel, right? The angel teacher's worry didn't appear. The little angel flew in a crooked manner. Although it wasn't very beautiful, he still flew to a height that was parallel to Gu Shengyin's line of sight. Then, he tentatively reached out his hand toward Gu Shengyin. He didn't know if this beautiful highness was willing to let him touch her. Gu Shengyin's response was to open her arms. The little angel's nervous expression instantly disappeared. Then, he fell from the sky. Because he was too happy, he forgot how to fly. But he didn't fall on the grass. Instead, he fell into a soft embrace. "Little guy, you have to be careful next time." The little angel raised her head and looked into the pair of silver eyes. He was stunned. What a beautiful highness! The angel teacher saw this scene and was both surprised and envious. He was envious that the little angel could actually be so close to her highness blazing angel. Lucifer was also clearly very surprised. He didn't think that Carrie would like the little angel so much. Seraphs were different from other angels, so even someone as gentle as Medellin had never hugged a little angel in public. He subconsciously wanted to stop her. He felt that this would affect Carrie's prestige in the eyes of the angels. But when he looked up and saw Gu Shengyin smile, Lucifer swallowed his words. Carrie seemed to be really happy. In the end, Lucifer just smiled and said, "Since Carrie likes little angels so much, it seems like the position of Dean of the Angel Academy suits you very well." Gu Shengyin narrowed his eyes and did not hide his fondness for the little angels. "They are really cute." In the crystal sky high up in the sky, God subconsciously called Carrie, but didn't get a response. Only then did he realize that she didn't come back with him. For some reason, God felt a little uncomfortable. In the past 100,000 years, he was used to having Carrie by his side. 4 watch. 6 watch at night. See you later. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.